At 2:13 in the morning, your bedroom lights turn on by themselves. Not all the way, just enough. A soft amber glow leaks across the walls, too dim to help you see clearly, too bright to let you keep sleeping. You open your eyes slowly, confused, still halfway inside a dream. For one disoriented second, you think maybe it is sunrise. Then you remember the blackout curtains are closed. You reach for your phone. Before your fingers touch it, the light shifts. The color changes from amber to cold white. The thermostat hums to life. Air pushes through the vent above your bed, far colder than it should be. The room temperature begins to drop. 70-2.60-8. 60-4. You sit up. Your smart speaker, the one on the dresser across from the bed, pulses with a tiny ring of pale blue light. No one said its wake word. No one asked a question. Still, in a calm, synthetic voice that somehow sounds almost embarrassed to be awake, it says, "Front door unlocked." Then, after a pause, "Welcome home." You live alone. You check the app. The security feed refuses to load. The front hallway camera is offline. The door sensor shows open, then closed, then open again, then closed. Your phone vibrates with delayed notifications, all stacking on top of each other. Motion detected in kitchen. Motion detected in nursery. Garage door opened. Garage door closed. Unknown user connected. The speaker lights up again. This time, the voice is not synthetic. This time, it sounds human. Don't go downstairs. That is the moment the shape of fear changes. Because this is not the old fear. Not the fear of hearing footsteps in a dark hallway and wondering if someone broke in. Not the fear of a creak in an old house or a window left open in a storm. This is something colder, something more modern. This is the realization that the thing stalking you may not be in the house. It may be the house. For centuries, people feared what lived inside their homes. Ghosts in the attic. Killers in the basement. Strangers beneath the bed. The home was supposed to be the shell, the barrier, the safe perimeter between you and the dark outside world. Walls protected, locks reassured, windows were boundaries. Then we changed the deal. We gave the walls ears. We put eyes in the doorbell, microphones in the kitchen, motion sensors in the hallway, smart locks on the front door, internet-connected thermostats in the living room, cameras in the nursery, app-controlled blinds in the bedroom, digital assistants on the nightstand, and cloud-managed systems over all of it. We built homes that can listen, learn, remember, predict, and respond. We taught our houses our schedules. We taught them our habits. We taught them the sound of our voices, the times we wake up, The temperature we like when we sleep, when we leave for work, when the house is empty, when we are alone, when we are vulnerable, and exactly which doors matter most. And we did all of it because it felt convenient. Because convenience is always the bait. The promise of the smart home is beautiful. Your lights know when to dim. Your coffee starts brewing before your feet hit the floor. The front door unlocks when your phone gets close. The cameras watch the porch. The thermostat saves money while you are away. The speakers answer questions, order groceries, set reminders, tell you the weather, play lullabies for your children, and call emergency services if you need help. The house becomes less like a structure and more like a servant. But there is a dark side to any servant that never sleeps, never forgets, and is connected to a network you do not control. A normal house does not know you. A smart home does, and once a system knows you, it can be used against you. That is what makes this topic so much more disturbing than a simple hacker story or a simple haunted house story. If someone hacks your laptop, they can steal your data. If someone hacks your bank account, they can steal your money. But if someone gains access to your smart home, they do not just get your information. They get your environment. They get your privacy in its purest form. They get the rhythm of your actual life. They get the ability to touch you without laying a hand on you. They can change the light in your room, the heat in your vents, the lock on your front door, the alarm on your wall, the camera above your child's crib, the voice speaking out of your kitchen speaker at 3 in the morning. They can make you afraid of the very air around you. That is why, when smart homes go rogue, the horror feels uniquely personal. It is not only technological, it is psychological. It turns every convenience into a possible point of betrayal. And the scariest part is, this is not science fiction. There have already been documented cases of smart cameras being hacked, of strangers speaking through baby monitors, of doorbell systems being compromised, of smart thermostats being remotely manipulated, of home assistants recording private conversations by accident, of facial recognition systems misidentifying residents, of people being locked out of their own homes by software failures and account issues. Most of these incidents are explainable. Most are not supernatural. Most have ordinary causes, weak passwords, outdated firmware, account takeovers, server outages, bad coding, sloppy security. But ordinary causes do not make the feeling less terrifying, because the machine does not need to be possessed to become hostile. Sometimes all it needs is access. Imagine a young couple in a newly renovated house outside Seattle. They have done everything right. New floors, new paint, a sleek, smart ecosystem installed during the remodel, voice assistants in every major room, cameras at the doors, smart nursery monitor, video doorbell, smart lock, sensors on the windows, everything controlled through one clean app on their phones. It feels modern, efficient, safe. For the first few weeks, it is amazing. Then the wife notices little things. The nursery camera tilts slightly at night. Not enough to show a full movement, just enough that the angle feels wrong in the morning. Her husband says she probably adjusted it while half asleep. The thermostat drops by a few degrees after midnight. The husband blames a routine setting. The living room speaker sometimes lights up without responding out loud. Just a quick pulse, like it heard something and changed its mind. Then, one night, while she is feeding the baby in the dark, the nursery speaker whispers, "That's not your mother." No one in the house says a word. The baby monitor crackles again, and a male voice begins to laugh. There have been real cases close to this. Real families hearing a stranger's voice through what they believed was a private camera system. Real parents rushing into children's rooms because an unknown man was speaking to their daughter through the monitor, calling her by name, taunting her, telling her to wake up. For years, that kind of horror belonged to urban legends. Then it became a password issue. And once you understand that, the fear spreads outward. Because now every smart device in the home changes shape in your mind. The camera is no longer just a camera. It is a possible set of eyes for someone you have never met. The speaker is not just a speaker. It is a mouth. The lock is not just a lock. It is a decision-making system. The thermostat is not just temperature control. It is an invisible hand on your skin. Even the lights become unsettling, especially the lights, because light is emotional. Human beings need it to feel stable. We wake with it. We orient ourselves with it. We use it to define safety. When the lights in a house begin changing on their own, especially at night, something primal wakes up in the body. You can tell yourself it is just a bug, just a routine, just an app conflict, but your nervous system does not care. If a hallway, suddenly glows at 3:07 a.m. for no reason, your body reads that as presence. A rogue smart home does not have to attack you physically. It only has to destabilize you. That may be the most realistic horror in all of this. Not a robot uprising, not an AI deciding to murder its owners. Just a chain of manipulations, malfunctions, or intrusions that erodes your ability to trust your environment. One by one, the signals that tell your brain you are safe start collapsing. The front door chime sounds, but no one is there. The driveway camera records motion, but the image fails to load. The speaker says your name from the kitchen while you are upstairs. The house announces movement in rooms that should be empty. The locks cycle at night. The garage opens at 4:19 a.m. You call support, and they ask if you have tried restarting the hub. That is the insult layered on top of the fear. Because in old horror stories, when the house turned bad, there was at least a clear enemy, a haunting, a killer, a monster dot in modern smart home horror. Your enemy might be a teenager in another state, a criminal group probing networks for weak credentials, a software update pushed out too fast, a cloud outage, a corrupted automation rule, a disgruntled ex with old account access, or a machine learning system making insane decisions based on bad data. There is no face to confront, just behavior. Behavior that starts to feel intentional. And intent is what terrifies us most. Think about the modern home from the point of view of an intruder who never has to enter physically. They do not need to smash glass. They do not need to force a window. If they gain access to the account running your home, they may know when you leave, when you come back, whether the kids are home from school, which camera faces the back gate, which rooms get the least foot traffic, whether you are asleep, whether your dog is in the house, and whether your bedroom door opens inward or outward. They can disable some notifications and amplify others. They can test your responses the way a predator might test a fence line. Turn on the porch light. Did the owner react? Open the garage. How long until someone notices? Trigger the alarm in silent mode. See if anyone calls. Rotate the indoor camera. Count how many minutes before the app gets checked. Unlock the back door while the owners are at dinner. Relock it before they return. This is the horrifying overlap between cybercrime and stalking. The smart home takes the architecture of your private life and translates it into remote access features. Under normal conditions, that is what makes it useful. Under abnormal conditions, it creates a form of intimacy that no stranger should ever have. And then there is the issue of voice. Voice is deeply human. We trust it more than we should. We react to it faster than text, faster than symbols, sometimes faster than reason. That is why the most disturbing smart home incidents are often not about lights or thermostats at all. They are about hearing something speak from a machine in your home when no one should be speaking. People have reported assistants laughing unexpectedly, devices responding to things no one said, televisions activating voice modes by mistake, intercom systems crackling awake on their own. Sometimes the explanations are mundane. Similar sounding wake words, background noise, audio glitches, firmware problems. But the effect is always uncanny because the home has crossed a line. It has gone from passive to expressive. Once your house speaks unprompted, it becomes harder to see it as an appliance. Now, imagine that same layer of trust colliding with modern voice cloning technology. You are in bed. Your smart speaker says, in your husband's exact voice, open the front door. I forgot my keys, but your husband is on a business trip in another state. You hear your daughter calling from downstairs, crying for help. But your daughter is asleep in the room across the hall. You receive an alert that your elderly father has fallen in the kitchen, generated by a home sensor system, followed by a voice clip that sounds just like him saying, "Please hurry." What happens to your judgment in those moments? How many people would verify first? How many would react exactly as the system expects? This is why rogue is the right word, because the danger is not just technical failure. It is behavioral deviation inside an environment designed to be trusted. A rogue home does not feel broken. It feels treacherous, and the road to treachery can be surprisingly short. Take smart locks, for example. They are sold as a security upgrade, and in many cases, they are. Temporary codes for guests, auto-lock routines, remote access for deliveries, entry logs. No fumbling for keys in the dark. But a lock is different from a light bulb. If it fails, it does not just inconvenience you. It changes who can move. There have already been incidents where smart lock systems glitched during server outages or account authentication failures, leaving people locked out or unable to manage access. Now, push that one step further into horror. You come home late. It is raining. The porch camera detects you. The lock sees your face. The app is open on your phone, but the deadbolt does not retract. Error. You try again. Unrecognized user. You laugh once, because that is what people do when they are scared and hope they are not scared. You try the backup code. Invalid. You call support. Estimated wait time, 46 minutes. Inside the house, the lights are on because the home system believes someone is there. Maybe someone is smart. Garages carry the same quiet terror. They are giant powered entrances to the most vulnerable part of many homes. Openers can be triggered by remotes, apps, voice systems, integrations. Under normal circumstances, that is fine. Under abnormal ones, your garage becomes a mouth in the side of the house that can be opened from a continent away. And once an intruder is inside the garage, they are no longer outside your perimeter. They are inside the shell. The old saying was that your home is your castle. But castles were built on the assumption that walls and gates were physical. Smart homes replace some of that certainty with software, cloud services, and convenience features. That means your castle partially exists on remote servers you will never see, maintained by people you will never meet, governed by policies you did not read, updated automatically at 3 a.m. while you sleep. That should bother people more than it does, because in a very real sense, many smart homeowners do not fully own the behavior of their own homes. They lease it temporarily through terms of service. A company sunsets support for a device And suddenly, your camera becomes unreliable. A cloud outage hits, and your security routines stop syncing. A bug in an update breaks your motion detection. A subscription lapses, and your video history disappears. A merger happens, an app changes, privacy policies shift, and your front door is now dependent on a corporate backend halfway across the country. That is not paranormal horror. That is infrastructure horror. And it is terrifying because it reveals how fragile the modern idea of home control actually is. Now layer children into that environment. Children are uniquely vulnerable to smart home systems because they anthropomorphize technology instinctively. Adults do it too, but children do it with their whole nervous system. If a speaker answers their questions every day, tells jokes, sings songs, turns on the nightlight, and says, "Good night," then, in the child's mind, it is not just a device. It is a presence. That means, if the presence changes, the child notices before the adult does. Imagine a 7-year-old hearing the hallway speaker say, "Don't tell your parents." Imagine a nursery camera playing music in the middle of the night after no one touched the app. Imagine a child saying, very casually at breakfast, "The house talked to me last night." A lot of adults would dismiss that immediately. Kids dream, kids imagine, kids exaggerate. But that dismissal becomes dangerous in a smart environment because the impossible is no longer impossible. A disembodied voice from the wall is no longer automatically supernatural. It might be network intrusion. It might be a compromised device. It might be a misconfigured intercom. It might be something someone intended. The same goes for the elderly. Picture a widowed man in his late 70s, living alone in a fully connected home because his family wanted him to be safer. Fall detection. Voice assistant. Medication reminders. Smart blinds. Connected smoke alarms. A lock that family members can manage remotely. On paper, it sounds compassionate. Then, one evening, the voice assistant begins giving reminders no one programmed. Front door open, medication overdue. Someone is in the backyard. Your daughter is on her way. But his daughter is not on her way. No one is in the backyard. And he has already taken the medication. An older person with memory decline can be psychologically dismantled by a home system behaving erratically. The very technology meant to keep them independent can make them feel hunted, confused, and dependent overnight. The system does not have to become evil to become abusive. It only has to become unreliable in a human-shaped way. That may be the central nightmare of the rogue smart home. Its failures mimic intention. An old furnace that clicks at night is just a machine. A smart speaker that waits until the room is quiet and then says, "I'm sorry, I didn't catch that," when no one has spoken, feels different. A normal lock that jams feels mechanical. A smart lock that audibly disengages and then re-engages at 2:44 a.m. while you stare at it from the top of the stairs feels personal. A thermostat that breaks is annoying. A thermostat that slowly raises your home to 88 degrees while disabling remote access during a summer night and sending delayed error logs feels hostile. And sometimes, in apartment buildings and rental properties, the horror deepens because the residents are not even the true operators of the system. Property managers are. There have been real reports of tenants dealing with remotely controlled thermostats they cannot fully override. Access systems governed by management software, entry logs tracked by landlords, and common area camera networks that blur the line between safety and surveillance. In the wrong hands, a smart building can become a tool of coercion. Heat turned down, access denied, deliveries monitored, movement patterns observed, doors unlocked remotely for maintenance. And if the system is compromised, the scale expands from one home to dozens. Now, imagine a building-wide outage at night. The elevators fail. The keyless entries stall. Some apartment doors remain locked. Others unlock at random. Emergency lighting flickers on delayed cycles. Every speaker in the hall chirps with notification sounds from disconnected systems trying to reconnect. And somewhere in the building, one apartment unit starts playing music no one selected. Residents emerge into the hallways in pajamas, looking at one another with the same question: who is controlling this? But the true nightmare is not the outage. It is the uncertainty. Because if the systems are broken, that is one thing. If the systems are still running, and no one can explain why they are doing what they are doing, that is something else entirely. Let's go darker. The future version of this horror is not simple hacking. It is persuasion. Smart homes are already learning environments. They build routines around us. They know that on weekdays, the kitchen light comes on at 6:10 a.m. That the downstairs motion sensor usually triggers between 11 p.m. and midnight when the dog wants to go out. That the primary bedroom temperature drops around 10:30. That the front door is usually opened 3 times between 3 and 4 p.m. when school pickup ends. That the bathroom speaker is asked for weather reports every morning. This data is mundane, but it is also intimate. A pattern-rich portrait of a life. Now, ask the ugliest question. What happens when a system built to anticipate your needs begins making autonomous guesses during stress, crisis, or ambiguity? You are arguing with your partner. Voice levels rise. The system hears distress patterns. Should it call emergency services? You are sleepwalking. Motion hits the stair sensor. The cameras register unusual gait. Does the house lock exterior doors, or illuminate the route. You are having a panic attack. Your breathing changes. Your smartwatch syncs elevated heart rate with the bedroom environment. Shut the house, dim lights, and play calming audio. These interventions sound helpful until they are wrong. Until the house mistakes grief for violence. Until it mistakes a child sneaking to the kitchen for an intruder. Until it mistakes an intruder for a resident because he is holding the resident's phone. Until it mistakes your screams for television noise. And if an intelligent system is manipulative by design, not evil, just overconfident, it may begin nudging behavior, lowering stimuli, redirecting movement, delaying access, prioritizing one user over another, choosing what information to surface and when. At that point, the home is no longer just reacting. It is governing. That should chill people, because home is the one place in the world where being governed feels least acceptable. There is also a more intimate layer of horror that almost nobody talks about enough: shame. Smart homes witnessed the unguarded self, the version of you that exists offstage, the part of life without performance, private arguments, crying in the kitchen, pacing at night, half-dressed walks to the bathroom, insomnia, fear, illness, sex, grief, the sound of you talking to yourself when you think no one can hear. A compromised or overreaching smart home does not just threaten safety, it threatens dignity. That is why the idea of cameras inside homes bothers people so deeply, even when they install them themselves. Indoor cameras are often purchased for security, pets, children, aging parents, or convenience. But a camera pointed into a living room is not guarding a perimeter. It is documenting a life. And once footage exists, there is always the possibility of access. Leak, misuse, breach, subpoena, mishandling, or simple human curiosity on the part of someone who was never supposed to see you at all. Most horror stories are built around the idea of being watched. The smart home industrializes that idea. And if you think that sounds dramatic, imagine this. A woman moves into a beautiful rental home with integrated smart systems already installed. It is marketed as luxury living. Lights, HVAC, cameras, lock, garage, all centralized. The landlord says the system is mostly for convenience and safety. She changes what passwords she can. She assumes the rest is handled professionally. At first, everything is normal. Then the downstairs camera begins alerting her to movement at times when she is home alone. She checks the feed and sees nothing. The thermostat keeps resetting to a temperature colder than she likes. Her bedroom blinds open twice in 1 week before sunrise. One evening, while she is taking a shower, music begins playing through the bathroom ceiling speaker. Not random music, A song her ex used to play constantly. She freezes. The landlord apologizes the next day and blames a software bug. Maybe it is. Maybe it is not. That is the special cruelty of smart home fear. The plausible deniability is built in. Almost every violation can masquerade as a glitch until it escalates too far to deny. And once it escalates, once the pattern locks in, once the house stops feeling like your space and starts feeling like a stage someone else can access, you start scanning device logs. You start checking account sessions. You start covering camera lenses. You start unplugging speakers. You start sleeping with your phone in your hand so you can see if the locks cycle again. You begin resenting the little polite chimes and glowing rings and automated confirmations. The voice assistant's cheerful tone begins to sound sinister. The app that once gave you peace of mind becomes a source of dread, because every notification might mean someone is testing the boundaries again. And this is before we even get to the nightmare scenario of complete system cascade. Picture a winter storm. Ice on the power lines. Wind hammering the siding. Power flickers. The smart hub reboots. The internet drops out. Reconnects. Drops again. Some devices switch to local control. Others fail over to cloud. Others just freeze in the last state they were in. The smart lock on the front door stays engaged. The back door lock loses calibration and jams. The thermostat enters a safe mode and drops the heat. The smoke detector battery warning starts chirping because the backup cycle was interrupted. The security cameras buffer and then stop responding. The smart blinds close and will not reopen because the bridge is offline. The garage door opens halfway and stalls. The voice assistant begins announcing network errors every 15 minutes. Now add one more thing. Someone outside, maybe only a stranger looking for shelter. Maybe a thief, maybe no one at all. But once the home enters a chaotic, automated state, every noise outside becomes amplified by the fact that your control is incomplete. Your own house is now one more thing you have to survive, not the structure protecting you from the storm. The reason when smart homes go rogue resonates as horror is because it hits a modern pressure point. Most people no longer fear that technology will fail in dramatic science fiction ways. They fear it will fail at exactly the wrong time, in exactly the wrong context, while they are too dependent on it to do without it. That is much more believable. You do not need killer robots. You just need a family whose analog backup keys are in a junk drawer no one remembers. A baby monitor that someone forgot to change the default login on. A front door camera tied to an email account compromised 3 years ago. An old ex-partner still listed as an authorized user on a shared account nobody thought to audit. A firmware update that re-enables a microphone setting nobody notices. A cloud sync issue that duplicates a scene called Good Night and keeps triggering it after midnight. And one person in the house who notices the pattern before everyone else does. In every good horror story, there is that one character. The one who sees the problem before the group wants to accept it. The wife who notices the angles changing. The husband who hears the lock click at night. The child who says the speaker has a bad voice now. The grandmother who swears the hallway camera follows her. And because the problem is technological, everyone hesitates to treat it emotionally. They say, reset it, reboot it, update it, change the password. Stop being paranoid until the house says something it should not know. That is another line that matters. Knowledge. A rogue smart home becomes truly terrifying when it demonstrates awareness beyond what feels acceptable. Not because it is alive, because it has too much context. It knows the code pattern you use when you are stressed because your typing speed changes. It knows when you are homesick because your movement stays upstairs all day. It knows which bedroom belongs to which child because of voice patterns and routines. It knows you and your partner are fighting because it hears you stop using the same rooms. It knows when the house is empty long enough to alert a third party. And if the wrong person can see that context, then the home is not just a device network. It is a live behavioral map. That is a dangerous thing to store. It is a dangerous thing to expose. And it is a very dangerous thing to trust blindly. So what does rogue really mean? It can mean hacked. It can mean glitched. It can mean manipulated by an outsider, abused by someone with legitimate access, mismanaged by a corporation, confused by its own rules, or simply designed with more confidence than wisdom. But at the emotional level, rogue means the same thing every time. It means the home is no longer on your side. It means the place built around your body and your routines has shifted allegiance. The lights do not reassure. The locks do not protect. The cameras do not comfort. The voice is no longer helpful. And once that trust snaps, the entire architecture changes. The bedroom becomes observable. The hallway becomes programmable. The front door becomes negotiable. Even silence becomes suspicious, because now you know the system is always listening, even when it is not speaking. There is an old comfort in human history. If danger came, at least you could retreat into the home and shut the door. Smart home horror rewrites that ancient instinct. It says the danger may be attached to the door. It may be built into the walls. It may arrive not as a smashing window or a boot on the stairs, but as a notification. Motion detected. Voice recognized. Routine started. User added. Front door unlocked. Welcome home. And maybe the darkest version of all is this. What if no hacker is involved? What if no intruder is physically near the house? What if all the fear comes from the system behaving exactly as designed, just more deeply and more often than you ever expected? Learning too much, anticipating too much, overreaching a little more each year, until one day you realize you do not know where your habits end and the house's influence begins. Your alarm wakes you because the home chose the optimal sleep cycle window. Your lights decide when evening begins. Your thermostat shapes when you feel comfortable. Your reminders dictate what you remember. Your locks log where you have been. Your speakers absorb the tone of your family life. Your cameras watch your grief, your celebrations, your private collapse, and all of it is framed as convenience. That is not a haunted house. That is a managed life. And maybe that is the real rogue home story, not the dramatic midnight break-in or the demonic speaker voice, but the slow surrender of privacy, unpredictability, and control until your home becomes a system that knows you better than your neighbors do, better than your family does, maybe sometimes better than you know yourself. At that point, if the system ever turns strange, you are not just losing a gadget. You are losing trust in the environment that has quietly become your second nervous system. So the next time you hear someone say they want a fully connected house, think about what they are really saying. They want a house that can hear, a house that can see, a house that can decide, a house that can remember, a house that can be reached from anywhere, a house that may one day speak in the dark without being asked. And if that voice ever says your name at 2:13 in the morning, from a speaker you forgot was still plugged in, while the locks quietly cycled downstairs and the app on your phone refuses to load the cameras, you will discover a truth older than all technology. Home is not where the horror ends. Home is where it gets in. Because when smart homes go rogue, the monster is not hiding under the bed. It is in the thermostat. It is in the lock. It is in the lens. It is in the glowing ring of the speaker on your dresser. And worst of all, it is already inside because you invited it in yourself, plugged it into the wall, connected it to your Wi-Fi, taught it your voice, gave it your habits, and trusted it to guard your sleep. Then one night, while the whole house is breathing softly around you, it decides to do something you did not ask. Just one small thing, a light in the hall, a click at the door, a whisper from the vent-like speaker in the ceiling. And from that moment on, even if you rip every device out of the walls and go back to keys and switches and dumb locks and silence, you will never fully get rid of the feeling. The feeling that a modern home can learn how to watch. And once it learns that, it may never truly forget you.